57 US cents, 67 euro cents and 56 pence sterling. For more on finance, we're joined by Rod North from Bourse Communications. Rod, good morning.
Good morning.
So it should be a fun RBA board meeting today?
Yes, well, they come around with amazing regularity, don't they? Here we are for another month, and here we are probably predicting the same thing. Probably no change today. I mean, it's a very interesting situation the RBA is in at the moment, because we've got the dollar, still up at over 92 cents. And the problem that the Reserve Bank's got, if it decides to put interest rates up, that could drive the dollar higher. Yep. So, and if it puts rates down, I mean, that will bring the dollar down. I think a lot of people want to see the dollar come down, but of course a lot of the economic indicators that have come out in the last couple of weeks have been fairly positive in relation to the economy, and those comments that you just made sort of confirm that as well. So it's going to be very interesting, just to sort of watch how things play out. My view is that I think they're going to wait until sort of much later in the year. It's much better to sort of leave the cash rate at 2.5% at the moment. The only issue, of course, is that is creating a pretty solid performance in the property market, and I think that's a concern, because the Reserve Bank also last week issued a warning to lenders to say just be very vigilant about what you're doing in lending, because there's quite a bit more competition coming into that market at the moment. The banks have had it all pretty much to themselves through the GFC, but there's a few new lenders coming in, and I've noticed they're sort of offering lower rates, so that may well force the the big four banks to say, hang on, we don't want to lose any of our market share. We've worked hard to get it, so it's going to be interesting to see how that will play out, just in the next few months.
And reinforcing that concern, Rod, is the news yesterday. There's fairly strong new home sales figures.
Yes, home sales are up 4.6%, which again, sort of shows for the year to date that puts the home sales up to 22%. But I suppose the one thing to sort of measure that back is that takes us back to about 2011. So I think we've always got to look at where we sit, relative to other periods of time in the market. Clearance rates, interestingly enough, over the weekend were a bit sort of patchy. The national figures were down, into the 60s. But, amazingly enough, something like 3,000 properties were sold over the weekend. So there's a lot of activity happening in the property sector, but I suppose the warning to people borrowing money is to look at what can you afford in 1, 2, 3 and 5 years' time, and
when
maybe
rates go up,
when rates go up, because when rates go up, I mean, they come down by the lift well, but they go up by the stairs.
Well, yes, but the Reserve Bank Board was also moved enough by this to issue a warning to lenders last week about this very issue. Now, when the Reserve Bank does that, clearly they're seeing some lending practices that trouble them.
I think that's right. And I mean, look, there were a lot of sort of low doc loans, and a lot of people were being lent, 90% and this sort of thing over sort of periods of time, 5 and 10 years ago. I mean, a lot of those practices have certainly changed, but it's always difficult when there's competition and, you don't want to lose market share. So I think the banks have got to be very vigilant in maintaining, they're pretty strict lending requirements, because at the end of the day, the last thing they want is lenders defaulting on loans in 2 and 3 years' time. But I suppose it really is saying people need to look pretty closely too at what sort of loan they're going into. Maybe they should be looking at some of the low fixed rate loans of sort of 3 and 5 years before they change at the moment.
And just finally, Rod, another good lead for our local market today.
Yes, I think with that big rise on the Dow, we should see our market up sort of 40-odd points. We finished pretty well for March, so this should be a good start for April. So I'm sort of tipping maybe a 30 or 40 point gain today, which would be quite good.
April Fool's Day rally.
April Fool's Day rally. We like that. We like things that go up. We don't like things that go down.
That's true.
Rod, good to see you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Northern Territory Police are searching for an unusual pet. So